Good morning. I'm recording this on Sunday the 19th of October in relation to tomato energy. And please excuse me if I look down, but I've made quite a few notes because I think it's quite important. It's been an interesting week for tomato energy. Earlier in the week, they filed a notice of intention to appoint an administrator. That doesn't mean they've gone into administration. It means that they've typically given themselves a breathing space to protect the business and allow them to try and find either a restructure or a rescue, and give some protection against creditors. And I'm sure that the employees there must be very concerned over their own futures, and I wish them well. However, the announcement has certainly spooked quite a lot of the customers, and there appear to be three camps. There are those who jumped as soon as they heard the news and they've now moved to other providers, or they're moving to other providers. There are those who are sticking it out to the end to see what happens, and there are those who are really not quite sure what they should be doing, and there are lots of questions on the Facebook groups. So the problem is, for those who are looking to move, there is no simple answer, because tomato has quite a diverse range of customers. There are those with EVs, there are those with battery and solar storage, but there are also those on tariffs that are pensioner tariffs, 9 to 5 tariffs, working from home tariffs. It's a big diverse group of customers who are typically on time of use tariffs, so the rates change through the day. So there's no one solution fits all. What is fairly clear, however, is that most are on time of use tariffs. That's where the cost changes potentially every 30 minutes, although in reality it tends to change twice a day, or maybe 3 or 4 or even 5 times a day. However, for most of those customers, a standard variable rate tariff is going to be far worse for them than the types of tariff they've been on up until now. So let's look at why it's a difficult calculation. Firstly, the tomato tariffs are very competitive. As far as I can see, there's nothing else on the market that can come anywhere near touching them. So anyone moving is very likely to end up on a worse tariff than they're on currently. And a large portion of the customers are on various time of use tariffs and multi-rate tariffs. So you have EV tariffs, where an EV owner can charge their car at as little as 5 pence a kilowatt hour overnight for 6 hours, and that also makes the whole of the house that level of rate. Then you have those with battery and solar storage. You not only have the 6 hours overnight at 5 pence, but also have a couple of dips during the day where they can top their batteries back up again. Heat pump owners and those on night storage radiators are in a similar position. Then there are those who are on the special tariffs, like the pensioner tariff, the 9 to 5 tariff, the working from home tariff, and various others. So no one solution fits all. On the Facebook group, there's a lot of chatter about where to move to, what's the right tariff for them, whether to hang on, and there's a plethora of non-tomato customers offering their friends codes for the tariff or operator that they're with, to allow the person who's leaving tomato to benefit from a £50 friends code, which is very generous of them. And of course, those who are putting their friends codes up will also benefit from £50, so that's very generous of them. So for those who are trying to work out what to do, let's look at the alternatives. Let's start with the simple one. Somebody who's got an EV, no batteries and no solar, just simple EV. So for them, the choice, first of all, is if they have the right EV or the right charger, they can move to Intelligent Octopus Go or Eon Smart Drive. Because they're smart, they both need to be able to control the car or the charger. And the list isn't exhaustive. So any Chinese or Korean car, for example, isn't on the list. So it's great if you can get it, but not everybody can. So now we move on to those who don't have the eligibility for a smart drive tariff. So we move on to Eon Next Drive. It's generally considered the most competitive, although because the rates are regional, there is a lot of interest in Good Energy and So Energy. And obviously there are others, so you need to do your homework. But the main point is that those with EVs have got a really good choice, even though none of them will be as competitive as the tariff they're currently on with Tomato. And then we move on to those who don't have an EV, but instead have battery storage and solar panels. So now the options become a little bit more restrictive. The only EV tariff, the only competitive EV tariff that is open to all, in other words, you don't need an EV to be on it, is Good Energy. So your battery solar storage users can use that. Obviously, there's also Octopus Flux, Octopus Agile and Cozy, should you want to look at those tariffs. But that does give you at least one EV type tariff that you can look at. In addition to that, obviously, there's the good old-fashioned, been there for generations, Economy 7 tariffs. And some of those are particularly impressive. Utility Warehouse, for example, has a very competitive overnight 7-hour rate. Again, it's regionally based. However, their day rate and their standing charge can be eye-watering. So it's useful if you are one of those who's got a big battery storage system and hardly ever uses the day rate. The Utility Warehouse option might work well for you. Again, regional, so you need to do a few bits of investigation. Then we move on to heat pumps and pensioners and 9-to-5 workers and so on. And then it becomes a bit more complicated. There's no simple solution. And for some, it might simply be a matter of going back to a standard variable rate tariff or an Economy 7 tariff, depending on whether they've got night storage radiators or whatever. So to help try and navigate this, a few months ago I set up a Facebook group that looks at various time of use tariffs, including Economy 7 tariffs and dual rate tariffs. Those tariffs that are needed for those with more specialist needs than just the standard variable rate tariffs. It really is worth looking at joining. It's non-partisan. It has users from pretty much all of the energy companies on time of use tariffs, and it also links into several other user groups. So if you found, for example, that Good Energy seemed to suit what you were looking for, you can move to the Good Energy time of use user group and ask specific questions of them. There's a massive amount of experience, and you'll hear about the company, the pros, the cons, warts and all. And I know that I was slightly sarcastic earlier by commenting that users were putting up their friends codes to try and earn themselves a nice little £50 here and there. Well, the groups that you will be linked to also have friends codes groups. However, in that scenario, the plan is that it's shared between the members on an equitable basis, on a first come, first served basis. So I'd like to think it's much fairer than someone trying to make £500, £600, £700 out of manipulating the system. So in conclusion, this isn't me telling you what you should do. This is me suggesting that you need to do your own calculations, work out what's best for you, consider your circumstances. As for me, what am I going to do? Well, I am a Tomato customer, And I have to say, over the last 13 months, my savings have been absolutely fantastic. By far the best tariff I've ever been on. And because I've got two EVs, a large battery system, well, relatively large, not quite large enough, and I've got quite a lot of solar panels, I've managed to save a small fortune. However, I'm a realist and I really don't know what's going to happen. So which camp am I in? I'm in the let's see what's going to happen camp, but I might move if things are looking a bit dodgy. No idea, and nor really has anyone else. However, what I have done is I've made sure that I've got plans B and C ready and waiting. I've managed to get my calculations done. I know which tariff I'm going to go on. That's my tariff. It's not necessarily your tariff, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. But I would suggest that you join the link below, have a look and do your own calculations. Just make sure that you're not jumping for the sake of it. I've hung on a little longer, and because I've hung on a little longer, I've continued to be charged pretty much 5 pence a kilowatt hour on everything. If I move, I'm going to be charged significantly more than that. Anyway, I'm Paul. Hope you found this useful. See you next time.